So before we begin, I want to remind everyone of the following information. PropelX is a funding platform, not a broker-dealer. A syndicate, if formed, will be managed by Planet Fund Management Corporation, which is a Nevada-registered venture capital firm. Private investments are highly illiquid and risky and are not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not indicative of future results. You should speak with your financial advisor, accountant, and/or attorney when evaluating private offerings. The information you will hear today may make forward-looking statements about investments which have not been reviewed by PropelX or Planet Fund Management. You should not rely on these statements, but should carefully evaluate the offering materials in assessing any private investment opportunity, including the complete set of risk factors. Very good. With that, thank you everyone for joining. I think uh, you all are very familiar with the PropelX platform, but for the ones that are new, I'm going to take a quick minute to share my screen and just walk you through the process very quickly. So give me a minute and then I'll hand it over back to Immusoft. Here we go. And apologies for the plethora of lots of little windows, but hello. So sorry, this speaks to what we were talking about. This is the PropelX platform. You know how to log in or sign up. If you haven't before, log in. You come to the investment opportunities page, and here is our Immusoft information. We do have 92 followers, which is great. There is the pitch deck that Immusoft has shared already with us. You have it. Some details of the company, who's on the team, some of the documents, and you could access this recording here, and then the terms of the investment. If you're ready to invest, pledge interest, and go from there. Just follow the instructions from there. So with that, I will hand back over to the Immusoft team. I'm very grateful to have Sean and Alyssa here with us today. Thank you. Thank you, Sean and Alyssa. Please feel free to share your. I think we can get started. It is 9:05, and we have a few attendees. I know that some others will be joining, but let's just get started and we go from there.
All right. Well, sounds good. And thank you, Swati. Appreciate your organizing this. And thanks to the attendees. I'm Sean Ainsworth, CEO of Immusoft. Immusoft is a B-cell as a biofactory platform for therapeutic protein delivery. So what I mean by that is we collect, B cells are immune cells that we collect from the circulation, and then we program them to produce therapeutic proteins and return them to the body where they engraft in the bone marrow and produce those therapeutic proteins for extended periods of time, potentially decades. And so the particular type of B cell is called a plasma cell. No need to remember that, but the important thing about plasma cells is they are naturally producing and releasing thousands of antibodies per second into the circulation. And so we harness that biofactory capability of the plasma cell, program them to produce that therapeutic protein, deliver that back to the patient, and then that therapeutic protein is being made 24/7. We're already, we're in the clinic. We've dosed a couple of patients. We're seeing some pretty extraordinary results, and with a really clean safety profile that, frankly, is, I think, the envy of a lot of folks in the cell and gene therapy space. So I'll get into more detail shortly, but there's a lot of safety and tolerability issues associated with other modalities that that we circumvent with our approach. The design is being prospectively designed to get us scalability, durable expression of the protein with, again, that strong safety profile. Bottom right, thinking about the market opportunities, we're starting with an indication called MPS 1. It's genetically defined, and there's a protein that we're delivering that's already approved by the FDA, which makes the whole thing much more streamlined from a development standpoint. So MPS one, it is an orphan indication, but the total addressable market is about $1 billion. From there, we're moving into a second indication, MPS two, um, and and then we have an opportunity to move into some of the larger possible areas like Parkinson's, diabetes, obesity, and those get into the many billions of dollars range. So starting with a little bit, lower risk, still nice reward, and then eventually moving into, higher risk, but really extraordinary outsized potential returns. Next slide, please. All right. So looking at the left here, that plasma cell, the gray one, that's the producing thousands of antibodies per second. That's the cell type that is responsible for memory against viruses, vaccines, and so forth. And that's what we ultimately engineer. Again, we program those using it's called a transposon system. And those cells then produce that therapeutic protein. In the case of our lead program for MPS one, that protein is actually an enzyme. So these cell types are very versatile. Looking to the right, the 6 panels. Panel one, we collect those B cells from the circulation. Then in panel two, we are selecting those B cells. Selecting those B cells from the total immune cells. We purify those, and in panel three, we program them to produce that therapeutic protein. So then in panel four, we're expanding and differentiating them. We infuse them into the patient where they move to the bone marrow and engraft. And that's once they're situated in the bone marrow, they're producing that therapeutic protein around the clock for years. And in panel six, then it shows those therapeutic proteins, the orange dots going into the cells where they do their work. Next slide, Alyssa. All right. So in terms of our safety profile, if you look to the right, the purple box is us. We've seen really just minimal, unrelated adverse events, things like sniffles, fever, stuff that everybody gets. We have to record all of that. In the case of other gene therapy modalities, the right is virus gene therapy, the middle is stem cell mediated gene therapies. There are preconditioning and pre-treatment regimens that in and of themselves are extremely toxic and and can result in death, unfortunately in these patients, and we've seen several over the last year. And so our patients, by contrast, we keep them overnight in the hospital for monitoring. And one patient complained about being bored. Can people bring me my video games? Another patient, he didn't like hospital food. He was asking if he could get takeout. So, these are really good problems for considering the type of modality that we're delivering. Next slide, Alyssa. So our first indication is called MPS one. It is characterized by a missing enzyme. That enzyme is called IDUA for short. And IDUA breaks down long-chain sugars. Pardon me. Long-chain sugars called glycosaminoglycans. Glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs. Those are toxic when they're not broken down properly, and so they affect they're damaging at the cellular level through the tissues, organ systems, The kids with this indication, the Hurler patients with the most severe form of the disease, if they're not treated, they typically don't live past about 4 years of age. So thankfully, there are treatments on the market, but there's still really high unmet need. So I mentioned on the first slide that this indication, there's an approved protein. It's delivered weekly, but it doesn't really, it's got a very short half-life. And so it provides some benefit, but not it's certainly not curative. Next slide, Alyssa. So we're really excited to be dosing our patients. We're in the clinic at University of Minnesota, University UCSF. Our first clinical trial. Well, let me actually just take a step back. We recently actually had a meeting with the FDA to highlight the path forward to approval for our for this MPS I program. We walked in with really 4 objectives, and we walked out with 4 pretty nice wins, I would call it. So one is to conduct a single-arm clinical trial. Without getting into the weeds, suffice it to say that's a very deconvoluted compared to a lot of clinical studies, so much more straightforward and streamlined. We also got agreement to move into children. This is always a really high bar for the FDA. So they looked at our safety and efficacy profile, and they gave us the green light. We also got agreement on the endpoints. In particular, they like functional endpoints, those being predominantly a 6-minute walk test and shoulder flexion. We'll get into that here briefly, but understanding what the FDA really wants to see is certainly helpful. And last but not least, we agreed on somewhere on the order of 20 patients. So a very manageable clinical study. Next slide, Alyssa. All right. So this is data we presented mid-25 at ASGCT. It's the largest cell and gene therapy conference in the world. So what this is representing is that 6-minute walk test. So to orient those who may not be familiar, the 6-minute walk test is relatively simple. You have the patient walk as far as they can for 6 minutes pre-treatment. That's the baseline number there, roughly 350 meters. And then you ask them to do that periodically after treatment. And what we saw is at a year, the patient showed a 230-meter improvement in his 6-minute walk test. So typically, about 30 meters is considered clinically meaningful. That protein that's already approved is called aldurazyme. That was approved on a 20-meter improvement in the 6-minute walk test. So, our first patient, we've seen about tenfold what aldurazyme was approved on. I'll just add at baseline, he was, that's about what the distance you would expect from an 85-year-old man. The patient is 25, and he got into the normal range for his age at 1 year. So really an extraordinary outcome for that patient. Next slide, please, Alyssa. So he also demonstrated improvements in shoulder flexion. These patients have a hard time, for example, washing their hair. They really can't, they're very stiff, and it's the result of those gags building up in their bones, their tissues, organs. So we showed a 20-degree improvement in shoulder flexion in patient number 1. We also showed normalization of those gags in the urine. We last but not least, we showed that the patient had a pretty substantial reduction in pain. And so, again, because they have so much gag buildup in their tissues, they do have a lot of musculoskeletal pain in particular. They take ibuprofen around the clock to manage that pain. And in the case of patient one, he actually discontinued ibuprofen by 6 months. He showed reductions across the board on 11 different questions. And by a year, by 18 months, he was reporting no pain across the board. So he went from, anywhere from a 4 to a 7 on the pain scale to zeros across all 11 questions, which was really surprising. Patient number 2 is not as far along, but he's seen reductions in pain, normalization of gags, improvements in the 6-minute walk test. So what I'll say is really actually a pleasant surprise for everybody involved, including the clinicians that are treating and those that are just watching us from aside. No one expected to see improvements in adult patients, other than perhaps some of the biomarkers, the urine gag, for example, improving. But the dogma was that by adulthood, these clinical manifestations are set in and not reversible, and we're actually demonstrating that that's not in fact the case. So it's really generated a lot of excitement in the MPS community. Next slide. So when we take all of this across the board, we've demonstrated safety and tolerability, pharmacodynamic improvements, improved functional outcomes, as well as patient-reported outcomes, those pain improvements. Collectively, that validates the platform, which, as we look to our next indication, the next one beyond that, it's great to have this clinical experience that's supportive of potential success in those additional indications. Next slide, Alyssa. All right, and so where we are now, the purple lines are, these are rare but genetically defined indications for which we, have, I think, a high degree of, possibility of success across the board with those. And then the blue ones are, those are a little bit higher risk, but higher reward. And so the way we're bifurcating our platform, our pipeline, is to focus internally on the purple, those orphan indications, but look to partner for the higher prevalence indications. I'll add real quick that we've also been very successful at raising non-dilutive financing. California Institute for Regenerative Medicine in particular, they've supported our MPS 1 program, as well as the preclinical work for MPS 2. We actually are in the review cycle for another $15 million extension for MPS 1. We should know about that within the next month here. So that's exciting. And then we've gotten $14 million from ARPA-H for the diabetes obesity program. So always great to have those kind of numbers in non-dilutive financing. Next, please. All right. So if I can take your eye, there's a lot going on this slide, but the peak year sales is about the fifth line down in light blue. If we look at MPS 1, MPS 2, those are essentially billion-dollar opportunities each. And then Gaucher is the third on the list. That's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And those check marks down below where it says potential PRV, those are priority review vouchers. Those are awarded with for rare pediatric diseases. And so once the program is approved, you can receive a priority review voucher and sell that on the open market. And so just last week, actually, there was an announcement of one that sold for $200 million. So, we've got potential for those PRVs for both MPS 1 and MPS 2. We haven't applied for rare pediatric designation for Gaucher, but it's eligible. And so, that represents several $100 million in opportunities there, and really, cash flow positive after those events. I should caveat that the program has been in limbo for about a year, but it's going through the House and the Senate real time, and has bipartisan support. So it's expected it'll get approved, reauthorized shortly. Next slide, please. Okay, so adding a little bit more color to these, the class of disease here is lysosomal storage diseases, and if we look to the right, that column in the purple, we see multiple indications that are worth hundreds of millions into the billions, and collectively, these represent about approaching 6 billion. And there are actually many more that we think we have application in, and we're excited about. So I like to say, if we had to choose and just say we could only go into lysosomal diseases and not beyond, we would run and not stop, because there's really just a huge opportunity here, in and of itself. Next slide, please, Alyssa. All right, and so let's see, another busy slide. I think the key takeaways here are, we're looking at approvals in MPS 1 and MPS 2 in the 2020, finishing the clinical studies in 28, getting approved in 29 timeframe. Gaucher is a little bit behind those programs. And then at the bottom, we get the Parkinson's, diabetes, obesity, potential to partner there. We just wrapped up JP Morgan, and I'll go ahead and say, there were some really interesting, some good productive partnering conversations at JP Morgan. Next slide, please, Alyssa. All right, so this is a slide that Alliance for Regenerative Medicine puts out in their annual review of cell and gene therapies, and gives some examples of exits by acquisition over the last, kind of the last decade. And more recently, there have been a large, some very large deals up in the billions. It's not on this slide, but there's another company called Amicus that is focused on lysosomal diseases. And just about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, they were acquired from BioMarin for about almost 5 billion. I think it was 4.8 billion. So lysosomal diseases like us, they had about 500 million in sales annually, and got bought for 5 billion, 4.8 billion. Next slide, Alyssa. All right. This is just an amazing team. I won't go into all our backgrounds, but great group to work with. And collectively, we've got success in big pharmas, small biotechs, taking programs into the clinic through to approval, taking companies to exit by acquisition, by IPO. So aside from being, highly competent, there's really great chemistry amongst the team as well. And, we're able to get a lot done with the resources at hand. My own background, I'll just point out, Compendia Bioscience, that was a company that I co-founded going back about 20 years ago, but that got acquired by Life Technologies. It was 50 million, pardon me, but we only required about 2 million to take that company, to get that company launched. And so everybody did well there. Retrosense Therapeutics, company that I founded then in 2009 timeframe. We got acquired by Allergan in 2016, and that was for about well, the headline value there was 555 million. I've also been on boards where we've taken companies public, acquired companies, kind of the gamut. So, next slide, please, Alyssa. All right. Our scientific advisory board is really second to none. It's headed by our chief medical officer, Bob Sikorsky, and Bruce Levine, Hans-Peter Kim are both two of the top cell therapy key opinion leaders in the world. Michael Carroll, Peter Sage, they're two of the leading B-cell biologists. They're both at Harvard. Next slide, please. Our intellectual property, it started at Caltech, and that was out of David Baltimore's lab. David Baltimore is was a Nobel laureate. Unfortunately, passed away last year, but truly a brilliant individual. They were the first to reduce this to practice, and Immusoft licensed that intellectual property and has advanced it, in-house as well as through acquisitions and licenses and other partnering programs. So net, we've got about 50 issued patents, IP protection through 2040. We've got freedom to operate as assessed by multiple parties now, independently and corroborated. Okay, next slide, please, Alyssa. So the current investment opportunity, we are working on a SAFE. We're going up to 10 million on the SAFE. We actually have about 8 million in commitments. Call it 7.5 to 8 million anyway. I'm quite confident we'll get to 8 million near term, and there's interest in the other two by third parties. Okay, so the cap on the SAFE is at 25 million. Insiders have a pay to play, and so that's driving some of this. We actually targeted the pay to play for 5 million, and we're oversubscribed on that. I think we'll get up to about 7.5. So a lot of actually enthusiasm from our insiders. Liquidation preference ahead of the Series A and B. We are doing a first close this month, January 30th, and that will come with warrant coverage. That means money in the bank January 30th, just to be clear. And then a second close will come in mid-February. Slide is already out of date a little bit. We've got about 5.8 million confirmed from insiders, and a couple million more possible. And recently we had 600,000 committed from third parties. And just in terms of where this will take us, I mentioned the potential 15 million from CIRM. High likelihood, I think, of that coming through for us. We are, in the clinic doing very well, and CIRM has already, given a good indication that they want to continue to see us succeed. So all of this gets us to through the end of 2026 and dosing our next 9 patients, which is the completion of our phase 1 and 2 clinical study. And so really, a lot of value creation over the course of the next year, building on this this clinical data set that we're already into. And next slide, please, Alyssa. So last but not least, there's really been some tailwinds recently that are most welcome in terms of recognition of orphan disease and the M&A activity, just generally speaking, towards the end of 2025 and early this year already. There's been a pretty strong uptick in M&A activity. The one that is closest to home for us, again, is Amicus and their acquisition by BioMarin. I'll point out BioMarin is actually a rare disease company as well, publicly traded, about north of $10 billion market cap. Jazz Pharmaceuticals, they had the priority review voucher that I mentioned until about mid-2025. I think the highest one sold for was about 150 million. Just last week, Jazz announced the sale of theirs for 200 million. So what the priority review voucher does is for big pharmas in particular that have multi-billion-dollar opportunities, it shaves off 3 to 6 months from the review time. So that's more marketing time for them, more opportunity to generate that revenue, and a couple $100 million is I think makes all the sense in the world for those big pharmas. Last but not least is the FDA has actually been much more amenable to cell therapies, gene therapies for rare diseases over the last year. So perhaps not quite so much for vaccines, for example, but they do seem to have a soft spot for cell and gene therapies. And in fact, they issued new guidance in September on how to expedite these approaches for rare diseases. And so it's, I think it's really an exciting time for Immusoft. All the indicators are pointing in the right direction, and we're looking forward to a really eventful 2026, and would love and welcome additional support. And I think from here we can move into to some Q&A.
So much, Sean. Very exciting. So everyone, if you have questions, please, there is a box at the bottom of your screens, which is a question mark within a circle. So please put your questions there. There are 2 questions right now, Sean, that you could answer. Who are Immusoft's main competitors? I think that is in 2026. And then, are your investors from the previous round in 2019 participating in the current round?
Yep. So competitors. I'll go ahead and start with There's one other company in the B cell space that's using B cells as biofactories. They're called B-Bio. They've raised about 400 million to date. They're in the clinic with a hemophilia program, and they got into the clinic about a year after us. I'll contrast by saying, we've raised about 60 million to date versus their 400. So we've been, I think, much more efficient. That having been said, I think they're doing great work, and it's good to see the kind of financial resources flowing into the space, and the recognition of the potential for the B cells.
Sean, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Yep.
So in B cells, can you repurpose these B cells for any kind of disease that needs these proteins? So for example, they're going forward with a hemophilia program. You're going forward with an MPS 1 and 2 program. Could we say they're competitors because you're using B cells, both of you? Or how would otherwise they be competing? You're in different programs altogether.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. So we can, so let me start at a higher level. Yeah, we can program B cells to produce therapeutic proteins. And so for any indication, where a protein is the appropriate payload, that's nearly any indication. There are somewhere it doesn't quite work, but yeah, we can. I guess either company, frankly, could program B cells to deliver that payload. Um, we can actually program to deliver larger payloads than BBio, but that's maybe a bit of a sidebar. The other competitors, we did show that list of enzyme replacement therapies, and those are really the other competition at present. So those are companies like BioMarin, Sanofi Aventis, Takeda. They've got the stronghold on lysosomal diseases and enzyme replacement therapies for those indications.
And B bio is Bridge Bio?
It's not. B bio is BE, and it's biopharma. So they just kind of go by B bio for short. So yeah, Bridge Bio, separate entity. I think still a good example though. Bridge Bio does a lot of orphan diseases, and couldn't tell you what their market cap offhand is, but I think they're in the north of $1 billion anyway. So yeah, 2019, the investors then, yeah, pretty much everybody is investing in this current safe. So to put some, to put a finer point on it, we've got about, we're approaching 6 million on a target of 5. So a lot of people are oversubscribing, and nobody, when I say oversubscribing, above their pro rata share, and nobody has said no to this investment so far. So I think we'll get north of 7 million from our insiders.
Sean, when you think of an exit, how far do you think? So we are right now going to be dosing 9 patients. That's the goal. When do you think the exit happens, and how does it work for these orphan disease categories? Because you don't go through the standard phase 1, phase 2, etc. Clinical trials.
Right. Yeah. So I let me answer it this way. We've got the prospect of exit by acquisition or IPO. My last 2 companies were by acquisition, and I think that's an excellent way to go. But as the saying goes, companies are bought, not sold. So it's got to be a function of the appetite from the big pharmas. What we do is keep close communications with them so that when they're ready and there's a good fit, we're queued up and ready to go on our end. So we had a multitude of excellent conversations last week at JP Morgan. It's premature to say, yeah, we're gonna get a term sheet next week and sell by the middle of the year. We're not there, but we've got a lot of interest, and so that's exciting. As the IPO prospect goes, the market is turning back around. 2025 was there was a dearth of IPOs in biotech towards from the middle of the year till the end, essentially. But that's coming back around. I met with several bankers last week as well, and there's a lot of I would call it bullishness, but not over exuberance. And so, so that's exciting. And we are engaging in some conversations about a prospective crossover. And if we went that route, that would, I think position us to do an IPO, call it, in potentially a
Yeah.
year's time.
So, Sean, so things that people may not know here. Immusoft was, we first encountered Immusoft when it was backed by Breakout Labs. Was it Breakout Labs or Founders Fund? One of the two.
Well, both.
Both,
We
right?
got
So,
investment from both, yeah.
from both. So, Breakout Labs and Founders Fund are both Peter Thiel's venture capital efforts. Breakout Labs did breakthrough technologies at their earlier stages, seed stages, and Founders Fund does Series A's and B's. A little bit like Propellex does the early ones and Calculus does the later ones. However, so that was when we met them. And the reason we got them on board, and this is one of those few companies which I have personally invested also, and I will be doing my pro rata as well in this. So the reason we got them on board is there aren't that many B cell therapy companies. Or at least, I mean, I'm not sure, Sean, the landscape might have changed. This was a while back. But we thought that it was interesting how they were, the point that these cells can then produce the proteins at that time. I mean, for many years, forever, we thought that would be helpful. So in any event, now biotech has had a downturn, right? Or it has been not the best time. And that's why I feel like this opportunity is interesting, because we have a Sean, I just need to speak to the investors that we have a low cap, right? We do have a low cap, and this is lower than it has been ever. And so frankly, I think it is a great opportunity for new investors to come in. The breakthrough technology doesn't go away. Their existing investors are investing. And Sean, if please support me on this, that you're investing $1 million yourself in this round, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
have invested more as well, right?
Say
I
again?
thought you've invested in the company prior to this as well, right?
I have, yes. Yeah. So over the years, I've got, north of $1 million in already, and I'm putting in another $1 million this month.
So that's because the cap is low. So I do want to emphasize that it's a really good valuation for investors to come in at. Um, and yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Anything else? The one thing that I want to add is that terms slide was important. We get 20% additional warrants if we come in before the 30th, right? And so we do need funds to be wired. Anyone that's participating, please participate quickly. Funds need to be wired by the 29th, so we can wire them to Immusoft by the 30th. Yes. If there are any other questions, please ask. I see there's something here. No. Are you investing in the safe? I think that's James's question. So the answer to that
I'll
is
take it as that's directed to me, and the answer is yes. I'm investing alongside everybody on the same terms in this current safe. So, and I'm getting mine in by January 30th to get the 20% warrant coverage as well. So, yeah, just kind of building on what you articulated, Swati, is that I guess maybe the elephant in the room is how did we get here after all this success. And it has been a bit of a challenging market, and in 2025 everything kind of around the middle of the year things went into a dark period for a while, and so we reached a point where we had to do something quick, quite frankly, to get some money in the coffers. And this is a way to bring some give us some operating leverage without frankly, it's not going to over dilute the company because we're keeping this cap at 10 million. So that's the strategy here. I thought it was an amazing opportunity at $100 million cap. We're for this brief time going down to 25, and that gives us a good year of runway here. So
And there is this review that could happen in February, right?
Yes, from CERM.
So there's a $15 million under review. Anyway, any other questions, please ask them now. And otherwise, we'll be following up with details, and please make your investments. All the documents need to be signed anytime, but the funds need to be in by the 29th. Let's wrap up if there aren't any other questions. This is the last call for questions. I'll just give it a second. All right, going and gone. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sean, and thank you, Alyssa, for presenting this. We've been big supporters, and I'm hoping we'll continue to be that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate your support. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.